So after another weekend of Championship football, we are back for another episode of the Championship Roundup. As we do have midweek fixtures coming up this week as well, we will also be predicting them in the second half of today's video, so all those games will be in the description down below. And as always, we do have a lot of talking points to go over this week. Before we do hop into anything though, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors over at OneFootball. As always, you'll find their link in the top line of the description down below. Over on the OneFootball app is a really handy app to have to keep up to date with all the latest ongoings around the Championship. You can get live updates to your phone with all the matches that are going on around the Championship. I find it really useful when I'm watching North End games to track what's going on around the rest of the Championship. So you'll always be kept up to date with everything that is going on. So like I said, OneFootball link down below. And before we do hop into anything, I will include your guys' score predictions on screen now. So if any of you did successfully manage to get any of your predictions correct, then fair play. I had a pretty decent week. I got 2 of mine correct this weekend. Both the Derby and Preston games were correctly predicted, so not too bad going from me. But without any further ado, let's hop into these games. So starting out with Friday night's game, which finished 1 apiece between Derby and Fulham. Quite a good game to watch in the end. Rodak, the Fulham goalkeeper, right back on form in this one. After having the dodgy weekend against Barnsley where he was at fault for a couple of the goals last time, he was right back in it for this one, keeping Fulham in it, especially in the first half. Derby did create several decent openings, you know. Matt Clark had a really good chance, Rooney whipping in a free kick. Rodak went back on himself to make the save on that one. Tom Lawrence had a good opening, but once again, Rodak was level to it. Fulham, the complete and obscene amount of passes per game. I think that in terms of the Championship this season, in terms of passes completed, Fulham will be way up there at the top of the Championship, but it was them playing out from the back which led to the opening goal for Derby. Giving it away in a cheap area led to the penalty. Wayne Rooney went ahead and took it, and a cheeky Panenka down the middle makes it 1-0. Wayne Rooney playing a little bit further forward in this game as well. We've mostly seen him as sort of a holding midfielder for Derby so far, but he was playing as a number 10, looking to be more influential in this game moving forward than he really was. But when Fulham have a player like Mitrovic, they always are capable of getting back into it, and with a player like Mitrovic, it only takes one chance. Brilliant ball in from camera, and then on the volley, Mitrovic into the far post makes it 1-1. After that, both sides had chances to win it. Cavallero had a good chance for Fulham, but Derby once again probably had the better openings, but once again, Rodak was level to those chances. That save from Curtis Davis at the end where he just clawed it off the goal line, absolutely fantastic. So finishing 1 apiece in the end, good game to watch. Fulham could have done with 3 points in this one, considering Leeds won this weekend as well, but a good game nonetheless. And then we have Brentford 2, Blackburn Rovers 2, a really enthralling game of football, I have to say, as the early kickoff in this one. It was Blackburn who took the lead after 11 minutes. Christian Walton with the assist for this one. Ethan Pinnock had misjudged the long ball coming over him. Adam Armstrong managed to get him behind. Obviously, David Ray, not being the biggest goalkeeper in the Championship, tries to come out and claim the ball, but Adam Armstrong spots his opportunity to lob in, and it was a fantastically taken goal. Armstrong then makes it 2-0 in the second half with quite a dubious penalty. Was it a penalty for me? I don't think so. It was quite soft, I have to say, but Armstrong brilliantly slotted that away. And Blackburn being 2-0 up, they were briefly in the playoffs as well. Everything seemed to be going their way, but the momentum shift came when Ollie Watkins scored one of the goals of the season so far. The technique on this was absolutely unbelievable. The chest control, and then the finish into the top corner. We've seen Ollie Watkins score a lot of sort of poacher's efforts goals so far this season with the way that Brentford system works. He's very good at arriving late in the box in those situations, but that goal there just shows what a player he is and the technique he's got about him. Brentford then get back into the game with a Ben Rama penalty. Once again, was it a penalty? I don't think so. To be honest, out of the 2 penalties, I thought that Blackburn's was a much stronger case for a penalty. The Brentford penalty I didn't think was one at all, to be honest, but Ben Rama slotted that away. From then on, you know, Brentford have all the momentum back with them. Did have chances to go on and win the game. There was a brilliant give and go between Ben Rama and Watkins, but Walton saved fantastically with his feet. Neither side was able to get that goal, and it did finish as a 2-2 draw. So really good game of football coming into this one. I think Blackburn would have definitely taken the point, but given how the game went, would have been disappointed. Brentford could have won it late on. Really good game of football. I'm interested to see how these two sides finish the season. And Middlesbrough now only find themselves 3 points above the relegation zone after Barnsley beat them by 1-0. Things continue to get tighter and tighter at the bottom, but I'd say Barnsley look more than deserving of all 3 points in this one. A lot of energy about this performance. They won the midfield battle. Quite a lot of decent passing moves going forward in the first half as well. It's just that goal just couldn't quite get over the line. Transitioning play through midfield and from wide areas, Barnsley looked quite good. They had quite a bit of creativity about this one. On the other day, I thought probably would have gone on to score a couple more goals. In terms of Middlesbrough, really flat performance going forward, offered very little. They didn't really have any sort of sustained periods in this game when they were on top to really put that Barnsley defence under much pressure. I mean, they finished this one without a shot on target, and considering the run that they're on at the moment, I think definitely will be looking over their shoulder. The goal that Barnsley scored, real moment of quality, brilliant ball in from Alex Mowat from the left hand side, headed back across the box. Originally Connor Chaplin hits the bar, but then with the follow up manages to make it 1-0, and that one goal was enough for all 3 points in the end. So massive result for Barnsley, and who knows, if they win the home home games to give themselves a fighting chance of staying up. Then next up we have Birmingham 3, Sheffield Wednesday 3. I feel like Wednesday fans needed a bit of a goal thriller after some of the football they've been watching lately. Probably in 2020 have been one of the most dull sides to watch, but this one, there was an absolute cracker of a match in the end. Birmingham leveled it up late on, but it was Birmingham who took the lead. Really bizarre own goal this one. Murphy just putting it in the back of his own net from a corner kick, but Sheffield Wednesday did level things up. Barry Bannon with a brilliant sweeping finish into the far post. I'm sure the former Villa player enjoyed that one. Before half-time though, Birmingham did have the chance to make it 2-1. Lucas Djukovic, brilliant link-up play for this one between him and Hogan. Jude Bellingham holding off his man, and then Duke with that finish into the far post, really nicely taken. But that lead was to last only 4 minutes before Forestieri did level things up from the penalty spot, making it 2-2. We then go into the second half and it continues to be a bit of a thrilling game. This time Forestieri turns provider for this one, slips in Murphy, and then a brilliant finish to make it 3-2. At 3-2, Wednesday have a glorious chance to make it 4, and you'd think that that would go ahead and kill off the game. Murphy's racing through on goal, has all the time in the world, but Lee Camp outfoxes him. He makes the save, the scoreline stays at 3-2. Birmingham is still in the match, and then in the 91st minute, Scott Hogan, that man at the moment, what an impact he's made since January. He grabbed his 4th goal of the season, and in the 91st minute, leveled things up for Birmingham. Things at the moment for Wednesday just don't seem to be going their way, but in the end, finishing it as a 3-3 draw. Really good game of football. Birmingham showed some good attacking quality in this one. Sheffield Wednesday, frustrating because it's another game that continues this winless run, but the positive slant would be they looked a lot better going forward. And then we have West Brom beating Bristol City by 3-0. It was an excellent away performance, and for Bristol City, obviously there's no shame in losing to West Brom. They've been the best side in the Championship so far this season. It's just the manner in which they did in this one, I think will leave a lot of Bristol City fans quite unhappy after this one, really. But Callum Robinson taking the lead for West Brom after 32 minutes. To be honest, all 3 of West Brom's goals were very avoidable from Bristol City's point of view. They were caught in midfield for this one. Jake Livermore winning the ball back, Callum Robinson eventually getting in on goal. He had the original shot, Bentley managed to make the save, but it cannoned back at Robinson, hit his head, and then went into the back of the net. Callum Robinson loves the goal against Bristol City. Throughout his time at Preston, he was always clinical against them. Obviously, had a brief loan spell there when things didn't work out, but yeah, loves the goal at Ashton Gate especially. Robson Carney makes it 2-0 before half-time. Jake Livermore with the shot. Bentley at fault for this one, really should be holding the shot from there. Just sort of spills it into the path of Robson Carney, who's then able to tap in, and then the third goal also comes from a mistake, really. Ashley Williams sort of messing up the backwards pass as he tried to head the ball back to Bentley. Robson Carney was in on goal and then made it 3-0. The only sort of dampener from West Brom's point of view was the Romain Slew's red card. Sort of lost his head, really. They were cruising at 2-0 up at that point, and he just grabs the throat of Jamie Patterson. I know that Patterson had fouled him, but he completely lost his head. Missing Slew's now is obviously going to be the blow for West Brom. Preston have got West Brom in midweek, so I'm really interested to see what happens in that one. But Bristol City quite poor in this one. Nagy Wells had a decent chance at 2-0 to get them back in the game, which he probably should have done better with. But overall, it was quite a poor showing, really. One player I have to highlight from West Brom, though, was Jake Livermore. Oh my god, the guy was like the Terminator in midfield for West Brom in this one. It was every second ball, his quality on the ball itself. He was on top of absolutely everything in that midfield, and it really was a dominant display. Like, I've spoken highly about Livermore so far this season, but this performance here I think might have been the best we've seen him all season. He was absolutely superb. Then we had Charlton beating Luton by 3-1. Big result for Charlton this one, considering some of the other results at the bottom, and considering the other results at the bottom, it does feel like quite a damning result for Luton. It was Charlton who took the lead. Lyle Taylor with an absolutely sublime finish, couple of really nice touches, and then from the angle that he was at, a brilliant finish into the far post to make it 1-0 to Charlton. That lead only lasted a couple of minutes though before Harry Cornick did level things up for Luton, making it 1-1. Nice finish from him going into half time. In the second half, it was Charlton who then went on to take the lead again though. Lyle Taylor from the penalty spot this time, a really cool penalty technique. I always do enjoy a good Lyle Taylor penalty, but before that, should Luton have had their own goal, they did have the ball in the back of the net, but it was ruled out for offside. Looking back on it, I mean, it was an incredibly tight situation. It's one of those where if it's in the Premier League, it's a VAR decision which you get the lines drawn on the pitch, which are stupidly close, and we're looking for like millimetres apart, but it did look like a very close decision, and in that aspect Luton possibly did get quite unlucky. Charlton then wrapped it up late on, making it 3-1, but the big result for the home side there, which keeps them 5 points above the relegation zone. And Leeds picked up what feels like a big 3 points against Reading, beating them by 1-0. Pablo Hernandez scoring the only goal of the game. Now Reading did manage to frustrate Leeds for quite a bit of this match, it has to be said. You know, the first half they managed to keep them at bay. Leeds, as they usually do, getting a lot of balls whipped into the box. A lot of the play was around that sort of area. They had chances just going over. Raphael made some good saves for Reading. That final ball just wasn't quite falling for them. Calvin Phillips having to go off injured also didn't help Leeds in this one, but the play and the tempo was still kept up by them moving on into the second half. And then Pablo Hernandez, that magic man with his 5th goal of the season. His original shot from outside the box was blocked, but he's got those little fast feet. Manages to twist his way into the right position and just pokes it towards goal. Raphael did get a hand on it, but they still managed to find its way into the top corner, and that goal was enough for Leeds in the end. They did have other chances to go on and make it 2-0, and then later on Reading tried to throw everything at Leeds in stoppage time. Moore did have a chance, but Casilla saved well. So a clean sheet and all 3 points for Leeds. It gives them a 5-point buffer over 3rd place. Overall, good weekend for them. Then we have Forest drawing 0-0 with QPR. Frustrating result for Forest, all things considered, really. They did take the lead in the first half. Joe Worrell from the corner. A brilliant header into the back of the net across the goalkeeper. That one was ruled out, though, as the wind moved the ball as the corner was being taken. I don't think I've ever seen a goal ruled out for that before, but the correct decision ultimately, but a frustrating one for Forest nonetheless. It's one of them where you feel like if Forest do get that early goal in the first half, then they could go on and win this 4-0 or something like that. That didn't quite happen for them, and QPR's game plan of, frustrating Forest, they actually defended fairly well for this one. It's back-to-back clean sheets for QPR away from home now. They handled themselves quite well. Forest did have more than enough opportunities and openings to go on and win this game, though. It just wasn't happening for them moving forward, and this has really been their Achilles heel over the past few seasons, this season included, but looking back as well, the inability to beat the sides below them in those sort of winnable games at home. This was another prime example of that. After the break they had a lot of opportunities, but it just wasn't falling for them. Diakabi had a chance cleared off the line. Lolly grabbing all their chances. It just wasn't going to happen for them, was it? And considering the other results this weekend, Preston picked up a massive 3 points, beating Hull by 2-1 and coming back from a goal behind. The first half wasn't the best game of football, really. Hull, I did think, had the better of it. The majority of the play was sort of around the Preston box as Hull were asking the questions. Declan Rudd was called into action on a few occasions. Preston did have, we did have our fair share of chances as well. Maguire had a header which he probably should have done a little bit better with, and Tom Barkhuizen as well. He had a header which was brilliantly saved by George Long, but eventually Hull did take the lead. Well taken short corner, Callum Elder whipping the ball in across the box, and Malik Wilkes really having a free header inside the 6-yard box, was able to make it 1-0. Going into half time, and the way that Preston came out for the second half, you could tell that Alex Neil had definitely had some stern words with the squad, but we did get that reaction eventually. Once again, another great chance fell to Shawnee Maguire. Gallagher put a brilliant ball into the box. Fisher back across to Maguire, and Maguire somehow not able to find the back of the net. But really the game-changing moment was the introduction of Jayden Stockley and Alan Brown. Those two completely transformed how we were playing in this game. Jayden Stockley gave us that target man to play off, and Alan Brown gave us so much more in midfield. The goal that got us back into it was a penalty. Darnell Fisher going down in the box. To be honest, I thought it was a very soft penalty. A few seconds before that, Alan Brown had gone down. I thought that one was a much stronger appeal for a penalty than the Darnell Fisher one. And I think that because the referee hadn't given the early one, that definitely played into his mind with giving that one for Fisher. But Paul Gallagher slotted that away, and then to go on and win it, it was the two substitutes combining. Jayden Stockley turns provider for Alan Brown. It was a brilliant ball in from Stockley on his left foot on the left wing into Alan Brown, who heads the ball back across the goalkeeper, and ultimately the 2 goals for North End would be enough for us. It does give us a 3-point buffer over 7th place, which I think will be needed because we do have some tough fixtures coming up, but a big 3 points nonetheless. Hull quite disappointing really in the way that I thought they handled themselves well in the first half, but really after Tommy's went off injured, they weren't the same side. And we also saw Stoke picking up a massive 3 points as they beat Cardiff by 2-0 after some of their recent results, and with the way that Barnsley and Wigan have picked up their form recently, 3 points was really a must for Stoke in this one, and they managed to do that with a convincing performance, I think it has to be said. Cardiff were quite poor and were second best throughout this afternoon really. The opening goal came from a corner where Callum Patterson got the final touch to make it 1-0 to Stoke. They were asking the questions all day long really. Tommins had a couple of speculative efforts, Campbell went close on multiple occasions. Tyrese Campbell, by the way, someone who, when I continue to watch Stoke, just gets better week in, week out. I thought he was quite unlucky not to get a goal in this one. Heavily involved in the second though, he wasn't giving up on the loose ball. I think that second goal sort of showed the difference of desire between the two sides. With Stoke it really was a side who were scrapping it out at the bottom of the Championship, looking to get all 3 points, whereas Cardiff never really imposed himself on this game. But Campbell not giving up on that loose ball. Bit of a scrappy goal in the end, but Joe Allen got the final touch to make it 2-0, and that would be enough for them in the end. So like I say, big 3 points for Stoke. Cardiff quite poor in this one. Then we had Swansea getting back to winning ways with a 3-1 home victory over Huddersfield. In the first half, it was definitely Swansea who had the better of this one. They went into half-time with a 1-goal lead, but probably had enough chances in that half to go ahead and kill off the game. Kalulu looked like a really live wire for them. I think I've not really seen all too much of him so far this season, but a really skillful player involved in the first goal. Some nice footwork, flashed the ball across the box, and AU was on hand to tap in for his 11th goal of the season. After the break, Huddersfield did look to put a little bit more pressure on, and they had improved going forward. They were creating a few more chances. Eventually that pressure did pay off. Steve Mounier levelling things up in the 78th minute, but that lead was to last all but 2 minutes before Swansea got back in front. Disappointing from Huddersfield that they weren't able to hold on. That goal coming from a corner from Fulton. Then Garrick wrapped things up, taking the ball around the keeper in the 90th minute to make it 3-1. Considering the whole flow of the game, I think that Swansea were good value for all 3 points, really. 3 points that does see them keep alive their playoff hopes for the end of the season. Talking about Huddersfield though, they dropped down to 21st in the table, just 2 points off the relegation zone. And then we have Wigan beating Millwall by 1 goal. Still massive result for Wigan at the bottom of the Championship as things continue to be really tight. Wigan just 2 points off survival now. And I'd say looking at their next 6 fixtures, there's at least 4 very winnable fixtures in there for Wigan. So, I mean, with the way that some of the teams are faltering above them at the moment, now's a really good chance for them to click back up into gear. But the only goal of the game coming in the second half being an own goal from Sean Hutchinson, he being the goal scorer for Millwall from last week, turned the ball into the back of his own net, and that was ultimately enough for Wigan to go on and win this one. Millwall, it was a bit of a flat performance really, and Wigan, to be fair to them, defended fairly well for this one, you know, considering their record with throwing away leads. I wouldn't have been at all surprised to see the same happen in this one, but Wigan seem to turn up when it does get towards the tail end of the season, so considering they are turning up now, they're giving themselves a fighting chance of survival. But guys, there we have it. There were all the games that did go on this weekend. In terms of my goal of the weekend, we did have some crackers, but it's got to go to Ollie Watkins. What a fantastic strike that was. Then for my result of the weekend, I'm going to go for West Brom. I think it was a really convincing performance against a good Bristol City side at Ashton Gate. Fantastic from West Brom, beating them by 3-0. So let me know in the comments down below, what did you make of your team's performance? Now without any further ado, let's go ahead and hop into my midweek score predictions. So starting things out with Cardiff going up against Forest. Cardiff, a bit of a flat performance at the weekend. They were quite poor really. The same could be said about Forest, who had the chances to bury that game against QPR, just didn't find their shooting boots. Not many sides go to Cardiff and win, but with the feeling that Forest need to get back on track, I'm going to back them for that one. I'm going to say 2-1 Forest. Huddersfield against Bristol City. Bristol City also find themselves in a bit of a dodgy run at the moment. Huddersfield desperately need a point with the way that Wigan have picked up in form lately. I'm going to fancy them to get a point from that one. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Luton against Brentford, you'd think would be standard procedure for Brentford, but Luton's certainly capable of throwing a spanner in the works. I still think they're capable of some good attacking play, but defensively, I think Brentford could turn them over. 2-1 Brentford in that game. QPR versus Derby, I think it's going to be quite an entertaining game at Loftus Road. QPR do tend to score a lot of goals, but Derby have been playing good themselves lately. 2-2 draw in that game. West Brom against Preston is a big one, obviously. West Brom I was really impressed by at the weekend. Callum Robinson, I'll be gutted if he scores, but it's probably destined to happen. Our record against West Brom's never been good though, and to be honest, with both sides, Sawyers being suspended will be a loss, but I've got a bad feeling about that game. I think West Brom may just edge it 2-1. Blackburn against Stoke. Blackburn quite unlucky this weekend not to pick up all 3 points at Brentford. Back at Ewood for this one. Stoke bit hit and miss on the road. I'm going to back Blackburn for a 2-1 in that game. Fulham against Swansea is another big one. I'm going to just edge towards, I'm actually going to go for a draw in that game, you know. I was maybe swaying towards Fulham, but I was quite impressed by Swansea at the weekend. I'm going to say 1-1 in that game. Hull versus Barnsley is massive. Now, with the way that Hull are playing at the moment, and they're probably on the worst run of form in the Championship, they can be nervously looking over their shoulders at the moment, and with the way that Barnsley have picked themselves up, going to go for a dramatic 3-2 away victory in that game. Middlesbrough versus Leeds, quite similar to Leeds' game this weekend. You'd expect them to get through this one with the way that Borough are playing at the moment, but I think they'll just about scrape by. I'll go 1-0 Leeds. Millwall against Birmingham. Millwall at the Den don't tend to lose many matches, but Birmingham do have this sort of never say die attitude at the moment. I'm going to fancy them to get a point on the road in that one in a 1-1 draw. Sheff Wed against Charlton. I think after the drama that went on with Wednesday this weekend, putting 3 goals past Birmingham, they're back at Hillsborough for this one. Are they going to get their first goal at home in 2020? I'm not so sure. I think normal service might be resumed. They're going to go for a goalless draw in that game. Then finish it off with Reading going up against Wigan. I actually see being quite in a good game actually. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw in that one. But guys, there you have it there on my midweek score predictions. So do let me know in the comments down below what are you fancying to happen in midweek. But there you guys have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. So if you did go on to enjoy, make sure you leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. Make sure you do subscribe for a bit of regular Championship content. But other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.